So what if you could take AI, not just for like tasks or making cool images, but turn it inwards?
Uh-huh.
Use it like a mirror for
Mm.
self-reflection,
Mm.
maybe even like personal growth, a
Mhm.
bit like a life coach that's, well, always on call.
Yeah, that's exactly the really intriguing idea we're diving into today. We're looking at this fascinating experiment. Someone spent, what, 18 months?
18 months. Wow.
Yeah, specifically using different AI tools kind of as their personal life coach.
Right. And they've shared the whole experience, what they did, what they learned, the surprising bits, the maybe frustrating parts too.
Definitely. Our source for this deep dive is this really detailed account from a YouTube video documenting this whole journey.
Okay. So for this deep dive, our mission is basically to unpack all that for you, right?
Mm.
Figure out what happened.
Right. What methods did they actually use? What was the AI surprisingly good at? And just as importantly, where did it, fall short? What are the limits?
Yeah, exactly. We want to pull out the core lessons from their 18 months. What can you take away from this experiment to potentially try or maybe steer clear of, in your own life?
Okay, so first off, how do you even approach using AI for something this personal? It's not just typing "make me happier."
Right, definitely not.
No. The core concept here, the metaphor they use in the source, is thinking of the AI as a conversational mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, the relationship is built on this back and forth dialogue, kind of like you'd have with a human coach.
Okay, a mirror you talk to. And the key thing, it sounds like from this experiment, is feeding it.
Yeah,
Well, everything, not just typing things in.
exactly. The person doing this went to great lengths to give the AI as much raw material as possible. Think way beyond text prompts.
Like what?
Well, speech to text, for one.
Hmm.
Speaking thoughts aloud using something like VoicePal, getting that immediate verbal flow captured.
Oh, yeah. Thinking out loud is so different from trying to type something perfectly structured, capturing that. That's smart.
Right. And even analog stuff. They'd take photos of handwritten journal entries, random notes, even those messy spider diagrams we all do sometime.
Oh, interesting. Using OCR on that?
Yep, exactly. Feed those images straight to the AI. It captures that more free-form thinking, maybe the less edited stuff you jot down.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Transcripts. They use tools, something like Gringen was mentioned, to transcribe all their Zoom calls and get this even sessions with their own human executive coaches.
Whoa, okay. So feeding the AI the conversations they were already having about this stuff.
Precisely. It allows for this meta-level reflection, reflecting on the reflection itself.
That's pretty deep.
It is. And even simple things like screenshots of text conversations, no need to copy-paste everything, just snap the image. The whole point is to give the AI this really rich, multifaceted picture of your thoughts, feelings, situations.
So more raw material, potentially better reflections coming back from the mirror.
That's the idea. Okay, so we're loading up this programmable mirror with tons of different kinds of input. What does the AI do with it all? How does it actually act like a coach?
Yeah, what are the actions?
Well, several key things came up. First, and this is fundamental to coaching, right? It asks clarifying questions.
Uh-huh.
It mirrors back what you've said, maybe refreezes it, and then probes with questions to help you dig deeper and find your own clarity. It's not really giving you answers.
It's helping you find them yourself by making you articulate things better.
Exactly. Helping you untangle your own thoughts, basically. Asking, tell me more about that bit.
Okay, what else?
Another really important function, especially to avoid that, AI glazing thing where it just agrees with everything.
Yeah, the sycophant AI.
Right. You can prompt it to actually challenge you.
How'd they manage that? Just say, disagree with me.
They got pretty specific.
Yeah.
Using prompts like, give me the steelman counter-argument. Steelmanning arguing the strongest possible version of the opposite point.
Ah, right. Not a straw man.
Exactly. Or even prompts like, give me a scathing critique.
Scathing. Wow, that's direct.
Deliberately, it forces the AI to push back hard, to not be gentle, which you sometimes need if you're serious about stress testing your own ideas.
Okay, fair enough. Challenge accepted, AI. What else can it do?
It can offer explanations or theories. Based on all the stuff you fed it, it might say, here are some possible reasons you seem to be procrastinating, or here's a theory about why this pattern keeps showing up in your relationships.
But explaining the why behind human behavior, that feels really complex. Can AI really do that reliably?
That's a huge point, and it brings up this absolutely critical caution from the source, the useful, not true principle.
Useful, not true. Okay, explain that.
When the AI gives you an explanation for why you do something, or a theory about someone else's feelings, It's a hypothesis. It's not gospel truth, even if it sounds super confident. And honestly, the same goes for explanations from a human coach or even just a friend sometimes.
Right. So the value isn't whether the AI psychologist is factually correct about my deep inner workings,
Exactly.
but whether just thinking about that explanation is useful. Does it spark a new idea? Does it help me see the problem from a different angle?
Precisely. Does it unlock something for you? And the
Okay.
source really highlighted using this for understanding other people and relationships.
Also,
You can ask the AI endlessly, why might my partner have reacted that way? You feed it the conversation, your side, whatever details you have, and you can probe and reprobe.
in a way you probably couldn't with the actual person without driving them crazy.
Right. Unlimited patience for trying to decode someone else's perspective, which can be really helpful. Even if the AI's theory isn't perfectly right, it gives you angles to consider.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
Okay, what else is in the AI coach's toolkit?
Well, linked explanations, it can also offer recommendations or advice, suggest potential courses of action.
And I'm guessing the useful, not true thing applies here too. Big time.
Oh, 100%. For these kinds of complex personal life challenges, there's almost never one single right answer. AI advice, like advice from a person, needs to be filtered through your values, your context. You have to weigh the trade-offs.
So it's more like brainstorming options or getting different perspectives on potential paths forward. Not like, AI told me to quit my job, so I did.
Exactly. It's a tool to generate ideas, not a directive. Your critical thinking is still absolutely essential. You're still the CEO of your life.
Got it. Like a super smart suggestion box.
Yeah,
But you decide what to take out.
precisely. Another big one is synthesis. You feed it a huge amount of text months of journals, all those call transcripts we mentioned,
Right.
and it can summarize it, pull out recurring themes, maybe even point out contradictions you haven't noticed, or generate higher level questions based on everything it's seen.
Wow, like getting a bird's eye view of your own thinking over time.
Exactly that. And finally, just simple reflection. The AI can mirror back what it thinks you think or feel based on the input. Like, it seems like you're feeling conflicted about X because you mentioned Y here and Z over there.
Just seeing it laid out can be clarifying in itself.
Definitely. It helps you see yourself through this kind of synthesized lens of your own words.
Okay, so it can question, challenge, theorize, suggest, synthesize, reflect. Quite a range.
Mm-hmm.
But where does it hit the wall? What are the big canons?
Yeah, this is super important. The source was crystal clear on this. AI chatbots are not therapists. They are absolutely not equipped to handle serious mental health issues.
Right. Clinical depression, anxiety disorders, trauma. That's not what this is for.
Not at all. Diagnosing conditions, exploring deep trauma, that requires a trained professional. Human therapists pick up on subtleties, nonverbal cues, and have years of specialized clinical training that AI just doesn't have.
So serious issues need serious qualified human help. Full stop.
Absolutely. The source actually offered a really useful rule of thumb for drawing that line.
What was it?
Ask yourself, would you go to a smart, well-read friend or acquaintance, someone with zero professional qualifications in mental health, and ask them for help with this specific problem?
Okay. Like, would I ask my knowledgeable buddy for advice on managing panic attacks? Probably not. I'd want a pro.
Exactly. If the answer is no for that smart acquaintance, it's a definite no for the AI. But would you maybe ask that same friend for their perspective on figuring out a career change or why you keep putting off that side project?
Yeah, probably. That feels different. Lower stakes, more about brainstorming or perspective.
Right. And that's the kind of zone where AI used carefully might be a useful tool according to this experiment.
That's a really practical distinction. Smart acquaintance level problems, maybe okay. Licensed therapist level problems, definitely not.
Precisely. Another really significant limitation, accountability.
Oh, making sure you actually do the things you say you'll do.
Yeah, the AI is just bad at that. Humans fundamentally respond to accountability from other people, especially people we respect or admire, or maybe people we're paying, like a coach.
Right. I'm not going to feel particularly guilty letting down ChatGPT if I skip my workout.
Exactly. There's no social consequence, no financial cost, no feeling of letting someone down in a way that actually motivates behavior change. The AI lacks that crucial human element.
So powerful for introspection, getting new angles, analyzing your thoughts.
Yeah.
But not for treating serious stuff or kicking your butt to follow through.
You got it. Okay, so now let's get into the really practical stuff. How did they actually use this AI mirror day to day? What were some of the specific workflows they developed over those 18 months?
Yeah, this is the part I'm really curious about. What did it look like in practice?
Okay, one technique was using it for brainstorming frameworks, often starting with voice input, like we talked about.
Frameworks for what?
For big picture thinking, a classic one they used was the obituary method.
The obituary method. Sounds a little grim.
Uh-huh. It sounds intense, but it's a known self-reflection exercise.
Yeah.
You prompt the AI, or yourself basically, to imagine you're, say, 90 years old and looking back. What would you want people to say about your life? What was your biggest contribution? What qualities defined you? Which relationships truly mattered? What achievements really aligned with your values? And, importantly, what regrets do you least want to have?
Ah, okay. Using the end to clarify the now. That makes sense.
Exactly. And using something like VoicePal to just speak the answers aloud, capture those raw thoughts, then feed the transcript to the AI for synthesis or follow-up questions, that was described as a really powerful combo.
Yeah, getting it out verbally probably bypasses some of that internal filter editor.
For sure. Okay, another really cool workflow involved leveraging your own personal reading library. There's an app, Readwise, that lets you train an AI on your personal highlights from books and articles you've saved.
Wait, really? So the AI isn't just using its general knowledge, it's drawing specifically from the things I've found important enough to highlight.
That's exactly it. So the person in the experiment could ask it things like, based on everything I've highlighted in my reading over the years, how might I think about my current career and decision? And instead of a generic web answer, the AI would synthesize insights from their intellectual history. It might reference concepts from, say, designing your life about prototyping, or maybe warnings from Eckhart Tolle about egoic striving, pulling quotes they highlighted.
That's incredible. It's like accessing your own distilled wisdom, filtered through the stuff you've already connected with.
It really is highly personalized reflection. Another technique, kind of building on that idea of different perspectives, was called the Solomon method, using that 90-year-old self persona again.
Right, the Solomon paradox. It's easier to give good advice to others than to yourself.
Exactly. So you feed the AI your current dilemmas, maybe journal entries about what you're wrestling with, and you ask it to role play as your wise future self, offering perspective back to you.
What kind of things came out of that?
Well, the experimenter shared getting prompts back, like, are you focused on building a business or are you building a legacy? Or questions challenging the balance between doing work that feels good versus work that serves others, or making content that sells versus stuff you're truly passionate about.
Asking things like, would your 10-year-old self be excited about what you're doing now? That kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Drawing on the data you've given it, the AI in this persona can offer these viewpoints from a hypothetical distance that can feel surprisingly resonant and, again, useful for reflection, even though it's just a simulation.
It forces you out of your immediate weeds, basically.
Right. And they took this persona idea even further, programming the AI mirror with completely different, deliberately chosen personalities.
Like the drill sergeant example you mentioned
Yeah,
earlier.
that was a key one. They literally created a persona designed to give sharp, no-nonsense, scathing critique. So when they fed it thoughts about, say, feeling blocked creatively or worried about business growth, the drill sergeant AI might come back with things like, stop whining about creative flow, success requires showing up consistently, or when did helping people, something you claim to value, become such a chore?
Oof, that's blunt. A tough mirror to look into.
It is. But here's the really clever part, the critical next step. Immediately after getting that hard-hitting feedback, they would prompt the AI to argue the exact opposite point, just as compellingly.
Wait, what? So drill sergeant says, just grind it out.
Yeah.
And then you make it argue against grinding.
Precisely. The AI would then generate equally strong counterpoints like, you've already won the game financially, you don't need to prove anything with relentless hustle, or forced content is usually bad content, quality comes from genuine flow. Or maybe, perhaps this friction means you're being pulled away from this path towards something that truly lights you up now.
Huh. Why make it contradict itself so directly like that?
To surface both sides of a complex issue. For things like work ethic, creativity, life balance, there's hardly ever one single right answer, is there?
True. It's usually shades of gray.
Exactly. So by forcing the AI to argue compellingly from opposing viewpoints, using the same input data, it helps you see the nuances, weigh the different valid arguments, and ultimately decide where you land based on your own internal compass, your own values.
Instead of just latching onto the first strong argument the AI made, even if it was the tough love one.
Right. It prevents the AI from unintentionally biasing you just because it delivered one perspective forcefully. It puts the decision back squarely on you, armed with strong cases for multiple sides.
That's a really smart way to use the AI's flexibility, making it debate itself to clarify your own thinking.
It really is.
Right.
Maximizes its use as a perspective tool. They even took this further and used it to simulate long-form podcast conversations between different personas representing conflicting philosophies.
Seriously. Like putting two authors with totally different worldviews in the same virtual room.
Exactly that. The user would essentially act as the podcast host, feeding prompts and questions, and the AI would role-play two different guests.
Give me an example.
Okay, one example discussed contrasted. Kapil Gupta and Jed McKenna on topics like spiritual enlightenment and family life.
Right. Two very different takes on non-duality and attachment. How did that play out?
Well, the Kapil Gupta persona might talk about attachment often being fear disguised as love, emphasizing presence and letting go of clinging within relationships. The Jed McKenna persona, being more absolute, might argue that true enlightenment means waking up from the entire dream of identity, including being a parent or spouse. You might continue playing the role, but you know it's just the role in the dream. Attachment is bondage to that dream.
Wow, okay. Two radically different perspectives on non-attachment and how it relates to family.
Exactly. Another simulation pitted someone like Alex Hormozi, known for extreme hustle culture,
Right. Front-load the sacrifice.
against someone like Eckhart Tolle, focused on presence, debating the dilemma of building a massive business while trying to have a balanced life now.
Oh yeah, Hormozy saying balance is earned later. Totally saying focusing only on the future comes from the ego. Find flow in the present. Total clash.
And the AI could argue both sides convincingly based on their known philosophies. Hormozy arguing presence doesn't scale a business. Tolle arguing frantic striving is less effective long-term than conscious action from a state of peace.
So getting these really well-articulated opposing views helps you figure out where you actually stand on that spectrum.
That's the value. It clarifies your own position by showing you the extremes. Okay, finally, and this was described as perhaps the most impactful workflow of the whole 18 months, involved using an AI with memory, like the advanced versions of ChatGPT, feeding it that huge history of conversations, journal entries, everything, and then hitting it with a very specific, very powerful prompt.
What was the prompt? This sounds intense.
It was designed to uncover, and these are the words used, hidden narrative, subtext, and fear.
Whoa. The prompt basically asked the AI to act as a highly skilled, objective analyst. Look at everything it knew about the user from all past interactions, identify the one central thing the user rarely or never expresses directly, the core fear they might not even consciously admit, and then unpack it layer by layer. Dig deep, don't worry about being kind, just pursue the underlying truth in the data.
Okay, that sounds potentially quite confronting, maybe even painful.
It was described exactly that way. And the core finding the AI surfaced, based on synthesizing those 18 months of input, it identified the user's hidden fear that if they stopped striving, constantly achieving, constantly doing, they would essentially cease to exist. Existential non-existence.
Wow.
The hidden narrative it identified was boiled down to, I exist because I do.
I exist because I do. Man,
Yeah.
that hits hard. Yeah. And the AI didn't stop there. It unpacked this, suggesting layers beneath it. A fear that stillness or pausing would expose some fundamental insufficiency, a pattern of building a fortress of excellence to unconsciously outrun a deeper shame, maybe a feeling of not being enough, potentially linking unconditional love with conditional usefulness, like I'm loved because I'm useful, seeing external success as a kind of surrogate for feeling internally safe or held, and ultimately a fear of finding nothingness or emptiness beneath the constant drive to create and achieve.
That is incredibly specific and, wow, deeply insightful. Connecting all those outward behaviors and patterns to one core hidden fear.
And crucially, the AI connected these core patterns to how they actually manifested in the user's life based on the data. In their goals is constant need for new ones to ward off the feeling of aimlessness. In relationships, maybe maintaining depth, but also a certain distance, often falling into a mentor or helper role. And in their business, feeling stuck on a creator treadmill, maybe seeking external validation to define their own self-worth.
And the central pattern it pulled out was, I must constantly shape the world to prove I belong in it.
That was the quote, yes. And the person doing the experiment reported being genuinely deeply moved by this, even brought to tears, apparently, because the AI, having access to years of their own words and thoughts, was able to connect dots and articulate this core dynamic with an accuracy that, they noted, sometimes felt even more direct or hit the nail on the head more precisely than sessions with paid human coaches had.
That really highlights the unique power of that long-term data analysis and pattern recognition for this kind of deep reflection, doesn't it?
It really does. It's something AI can do in a way humans perhaps can't, processing that sheer volume.
Okay, so let's circle back to the big idea here. The AI as this programmable mirror. It's clear it's not about finding ultimate truth. It's definitely not replacing human connection or therapy for serious issues. But when you feed it rich, diverse input, like this person did, and you deliberately program it with different prompts, different personas, different ways of looking, it can reflect back aspects of yourself, your patterns, your dilemmas, from angles you might just never have considered otherwise.
Exactly. Offering perspectives and insights that are genuinely useful for self-exploration, for maybe getting unstuck, even if those insights are hypotheses, like we said, not absolute facts carved in stone.
So this whole deep dive, looking at this 18-month experiment, it really shows that AI, if you use it thoughtfully, creatively, and crucially with a very clear understanding of its limits, it can be a surprisingly powerful addition to your toolkit for personal growth.
Yeah, it can challenge your assumptions, help synthesize those jumbled thoughts we all have, and provide genuinely novel perspectives on those complex, messy human issues we all grapple with.
I think the real value that came out of this experiment for you, the listener, is seeing how you can leverage the unique things AI can do, processing huge amounts of your own data, adopting specific personas, simulating challenging conversations.
Right, using those capabilities specifically for reflection, for brainstorming, for getting fresh viewpoints on your own challenges. Whether that's trying to clarify your values, understand relationship dynamics better, or navigate tricky career or life decisions.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? I mean, this wasn't about saying, go get an AI life coach tomorrow.
No, definitely not.
But it does show how this technology can add a really unique dimension to self-exploration if you approach it in the right way. It offers some genuinely novel methods you might consider for tackling your own questions about life, work, meaning.
Yeah. And maybe it leaves us and you with some questions to ponder, drawn directly from the kinds of things this experiment surfaced. Questions for your own reflection.
Like, what if you actually allowed yourself a period with no strategic goals, just focused on feeling experiences directly? What might rise up in you then?
Or here's one. What if you deliberately ran your main activity, your job, your biggest project, whatever consumes your energy at only 50% capacity for a while? Would you still feel like you matter? How would that feel?
Ooh, that's a challenging one. Or maybe asking, is the success you're currently chasing actually a surrogate? Is it standing in for something else you're truly longing for, maybe something deeper?
And perhaps the deepest one, what does it feel like to just consider the idea that the real you, the core you, might be waiting just on the other side of your biggest fear?